All right, according to a new poll, the majority of Americans think religious freedom is under attack. Here with reaction, former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee. Governor, always good to see you.
Well, John, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be back with you.
You know, before I get to this poll, I do want to touch base. Last week we had you on your show. There was some criticism about you speaking at this interfaith prayer breakfast. I understand you did speak today. Tell me about the response. How did it go?
I thought it was a great event paying tribute to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It shouldn't be a political day. It needs to be a day in which we have great respect for not just a civil rights leader, something he didn't like to be called that. He said, "I'm just a simple Baptist preacher." He really believed that his mission was more about the presentation of the gospel message. Because the truth is, Sean, if we want to end racism, we don't end it with politics. We end it with a spiritual revolution, because the reality is racism is not a cause. It is a result, and the result of sin, not skin. So if we ever get to the place where we can start looking at this from a spiritual perspective, as Dr. King did, we eliminate racism, because I can't hate somebody that God made and God loves, because then I'm hating God, not them. That was really a message that I wish we could focus on today, and not who got to speak at a prayer breakfast.
You know, it's interesting that you bring this up, because we often refer to him as Dr. Martin Luther King, and I think too often we forget the first part, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, and that element of God, of him preaching the gospel, is actually more essential to who he was, because that's what he really was preaching. And I think your point is so well taken. And in that vein, I do want to get back to this poll, though, because it says that 52% of Americans are concerned that religious freedom is under attack. I feel like it's interesting. What do you make of that? Do you think that, as someone who has been involved in this, that it is under attack?
Well, I think it is, in part because this concept of secularism, the idea that we're all on our own, that we're in it for ourselves, that breeds a sense of selfishness. When we really are spiritual people and we believe that we're not here by ourselves, that God made us, God has purpose for us, and that we have a responsibility to love others because he made them too, it changes the dynamic of our civilization and of our social contract. So I do believe that when people express their values by terms of faith, there are people who are threatened by that, because they don't want to hear about God, they don't want to hear about the Bible, about standards. What they want to talk about is what they think, what they feel, what they believe. But Sean, we can't live our lives with every single person creating personal standards by what I think, I feel, or I believe. It's got to be an objective standard. We've got to tune ourselves not to our feelings, but to the facts of something that is always the same, and that would be God and his word. That stays the same.
So I'll disagree with you slightly on this. I don't really care if that's how somebody wants to believe, but I think that the world that we live in now doesn't allow me to do exactly what you're saying. So I want to live my life according to that higher calling, right? And what we've got is a world where right now people want their feelings to trump my belief in God, right? That's where I believe that religion is under attack, is that it's not that I would love it if everybody was guided by that same belief. And it's interesting because in that same poll, 40% of youth, the people who are about 18 to 24, didn't believe it was under attack. And that actually does worry me, because I think if you look at young people and they don't share that belief, it's concerning as they grow older, because they don't see what we're talking about.
Well, I want to clarify a little bit. I'm not saying that we ought to force people to believe in God or the Bible. Not at all. I think people are free to believe what they wish. They're just not free to determine the consequences of that. And they also ought to be free to have respect for people who have come to the conclusion that human history is so much better when people do live by faith. Our generosity is different. Our sense of unselfishness is different. Charity is largely the result of people of faith, not so much people who think, I don't care. People who have a sense of eternity, that there is something beyond this life, quite frankly, they live differently than the people who think that when they die, they're just going to be taking a dirt nap and go back into dust.
Yeah, we Catholics call that Catholic guilt. It guides us to think twice, to say, is that really the right thing to do? Should we be treating our neighbor a little bit better? Should I have said that differently? Do I ask for a little forgiveness after what I did? And I know what you meant. I think too often right now people believe that they're right to not believe trumps everyone else's right to believe, and that's unfortunate. And so anyway, Governor, I always love your perspective. Thank you for joining us, especially on this great day. And I'm really glad that you got to speak, because I think you offer such a great perspective on a day like today.
Sean, thank you very much. God bless you. Take care.
After the last election, liberty-minded Americans are facing a difficult question. What do we do now? We do have a plan to stop them. This is the only plan that bypasses Biden and Congress to save the republic. Sign the petition at conventionofstates.com.